Welcome to the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast. We are the only live, local, politically conservative, and liberty-minded program in Kootenai County where we expose the political power players, politicians, and social influencers. Social influencing that's a lot more important than you might have given it credit. We're your hosts, Dan and Dawna Wilson. I'm here to screen your questions and comments. We will also be taking your phone calls tonight. That number is 208-366-4671. Again, that's 208-366-4671. I'm going to tell you how this works. You call. I will answer your call. You need to sit on the line and hang tight until we bring you up into the program. That number is ticking across the bottom of your screen for a reminder when you are ready to make that phone call. You can also join in with your comments at any time throughout the program, right in that comments section. Also, now this is a really big deal for those of you watching live on whichever platform. Share this program to your feed. Then we have exponential reach when you help us with that part. If you're listening back on our podcast, be sure to catch us live every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. so you can participate with us in the program. And a reminder, opinions expressed are ours only and not necessarily, they might be, but not necessarily that of any of our advertisers, sponsors, or affiliates. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's your host, Dan Wilson.
Good evening. So glad you could join us. Now, I know that many of you have waited a solid week with bated breath for our live broadcast, and a special thank you and welcome to those friends. You're listening to us all around the region. Welcome our friends to the south in this great state, the Republic of Idaho, and across the fruited plains. Again, we are glad you are here. We have many things to talk about, as we do every single week. So many things that we can barely stretch them into what time slot we have.
We start out saying, what are we going to talk about? And then an hour goes by and we're not done. And we're like, oh,
what happens
when we had some stuff to talk about?
What happens when the KCRCC decides that they are going to start talking about outside money and their stance on outside influences coming into the state? We're going to talk about that and some hypocrisy. We're also going to talk about more Fruit Loops from the KCRCC. You know, it's sometimes better to take the log out of your own eye before you worry about the splinter in another. We have many social media posts that we're going to answer. I hope some of you have had the courage to call in because you're so adamant that I'm a grifter, which is the new word for racism, by the way. I hope you, those of you who have been running your mouths online, will run your mouth tonight. We can have a little civil discourse. And we're going to talk about so much more. Bob Norris and some of the rumors that are going around. We can't wait to talk about those things. But as Dawna said, make certain that you look at the ticker down below, call us up. We're going to answer your questions, or we'll have a conversation. Keep it civil, or you're going to get ejected.
We do have the segment on social media coming up, and I want to tell you why this is important, because the influence of what's going on these social platforms is far greater, as I mentioned in the intro, far greater than you might have given it credit. Maybe you're beginning to realize it, or you haven't noticed it at all. You're like, it's social media. I'm done with Facebook. I'm logging off, everybody. I'm announcing I'm leaving Facebook. But this has had an incredible influence in the last couple election cycles, and it's only becoming more so that way. So much so that political leaders and parties, whichever they are, know that they need to sequester local influencers in order to get that reach and get their message out to people who aren't listening to and paying attention or necessarily trusting mainstream media. So that can mean that these local social influencers, or people pretending to be somebody they're not, can have a lot of influence on how you vote.
Indeed. Now, let me ask you this question. For those of you who are following Kentucky Fried Chicken himself, the Colonel Sanders of Kootenai County, Sheriff Robert Bob Norris, since that infamous event where he completely botched the handling of the heckler at the KCRCC legislative town hall meeting, how many of you have seen him ready to speak at a local event? Now, you guys know that prior to this town hall, like clockwork, he was making the circuits like he has done continually since taking over as sheriff of Kootenai County. How many of you have noticed that since that debacle at the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee's town hall, that all of a sudden Bob has dropped off the radar? He's not making any real public appearances except for county business, except for something. And you brought this to my attention, that some of our listeners or watchers, what do you call a participator? Who is it? Fans? Not fans. What do you call it?
I don't know.
Somebody.
Are they watchers to our social media page or to our program, or just people who follow us in
participants?
Participants.
There you go.
That have noticed. But one of the things is, I think this is where you were going with it, but Sheriff Bob Norris is the keynote speaker at an upcoming
Kootenai County Republican Women's Federated. Yeah.
I don't know that they're not a committee; they're a federated something or the other. But so I said to Dan, one thing I'm noticing is he has made, for a little while after the town hall debacle with Borum Paul, he was like MIA. But he's started to crop back up. But what I've noticed is they're really keeping a handle on it, meaning, okay, we're doing private or by invite or RSVP only type of events. And what that says to me is they want to make sure they're surrounding their guy with friendly forces so that he doesn't have to withstand.
But he was fully righteous in all of his actions. So why would he be laying low? I mean, Brent Reagan keeps telling us over and over, hey, we did everything by the book. Sheriff Norris was righteous in his actions. Well, guess what? Yours truly has been able to obtain certain videos from the Coeur d'Alene Police Department through public records requests. And I cannot wait next week to show you folks what the officers were hit with when they walked into the mess that Bob Norris and Lear Asset Management, what they started. And I think that you're going to want to see some of the video that we have, and it will undoubtedly spur quite a conversation. I think that Bob Norris is probably going to be pretty embarrassed with what we're going to be showing next week. And I'm wondering if Brent Reagan has seen this either, or Nina Beesley. Now, speaking let me break in real quick. For those of you just joining us, be sure to share this live stream to your feeds as well, so we can have more of you joining us. Also, keep the comments coming in that comment section, because I guarantee you it is entertaining. It is entertaining me. Yeah. Thank you, David Espinoza. He says Norris is a pussycat. Meow. Meow. So you want to talk about disruptions and violations of decorum in public settings. I noticed that the KCRCC, those folks that are the loudest right now, that's the Brent Reagans of the group, those that continually make the declarations publicly, there is no condemnation of its own members when they rip a microphone away from another KCRCC member. When they violently rip a microphone out, there's no reprimands that take place. There is no calling out bad behavior. They're more than happy to call it out when somebody yells something in an auditorium. But if one of your own members does something, we're going to shove that under the rug. Now, we don't have that video. We've showed it many, many times of Terry Seymour ripping the microphone out of City Councilman Dan Gookin, Coeur d'Alene City Councilman Dan Gookin's hands. Let's say, and you can head to the Idaho Sheriff Facebook page to see that video. It's gotten quite a lot of traction, and Terry Seymour's been interneted, they say. Yeah. So the disruptions, though, aren't just when those folks in the audience cause a scene. I have a video right now that I want to take you guys back 2 years when another darling of the KCRCC, in fact, this individual was the one that went with Lear Asset Management, Paul Truett, and advanced the Coeur d'Alene High School venue a couple days prior to that event. This is somebody that has been a constant at the KCRCC since we've been around. One of the individuals also that was the reason why I left and went independent during the sheriff's race of 2024. I think you'll get a flavor for what I dealt with on a continual basis, and many people do, when you listen to her in her own words. Now, let's set this up. 2 years ago, we have I believe it was a House committee meeting, probably about porn accessible to minors in the library.
And our caller, I'm going to have you hang on through this segment.
We'll get through this and then we'll take that call. So don't hang up. Anyway, she is before the subcommittee giving testimony. And I want you guys to watch this about a minute and a half to see how she responds as a representative of the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee down at the state. Take a look.
Oppose this bill. We have worked for 2 years in our community library network. We have shown them sexually explicit material meeting after meeting for 2 years, and they have done nothing. Everything in this bill, we already have policies. We already have all these things. And guess what? It hasn't removed books. But you know, what do you think about Chairman Yamamoto? What do you think about flogging? Because you know what? $10,000 isn't enough. And I think the Savior Jesus Christ said it's better that a millstone should be wrapped around someone's neck and cast into the sea for offending children. And you know what? You all are supposed to be lawmakers. Why don't you pray to Jesus Christ, who's the lawgiver? Because I can tell you what, he doesn't want these on our shelves.
Point of order.
And you made a big mistake today.
Okay.
Well,
139, and you arranged it before
point
this
of
meeting.
order.
There's emails. It's all over the place.
I'm going to let her do what she's, you know what? I am not upset with you. You, and I see that, and I let you say, now you've had your piece, and now you need to stop. Thank you.
So that was KCRCC darling Nina Beesley. Now, I applaud her. She's passionate about making certain children are protected. Let's be very clear. I, Dan Wilson, as I have always been, am opposed to children, that's anybody under the age of 18 years old, to on their own access any kind of pornographic material, period. That includes anything about the birds and the bees. That's up to the parents and guardians to decide when a child is, that material is appropriate for them. So I applaud Nina for her relentless effort to rid local libraries of this filth. Now, take a look, though, at how her actions were. Now, I've never heard Brent Reagan or anybody at the KCRCC come out and condemn her. In fact, they applaud her for testifying. Look at the way she turns. Now, what do you think about flogging, Chairman? And you know what? Do you guys pray to the Lord Jesus? Again, Nina, people have their right to have their own beliefs. Some of them may or may not have a belief in Jesus Christ. That is not a prerequisite in the state for being a legislator. And then you made a big mistake. She starts threatening them. You better tie a millstone around your neck. I mean, unhinged so much to the point that you saw the Idaho State Trooper having to come and remove her from the podium. And as she is leaving, she continues to what? Disrupt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that part's off camera, but she did continue shouting and having words to say as she was being escorted out.
Yeah. So, look, we're just going to show the hypocrisy as we see them. Had the KCRCC leadership publicly stated that this behavior is not what we like to see publicly, then you know what? I would not be showing this, or I would be showing it and saying, here's an example. But I'm really sick and tired of what I call the hypocrisy, where they claim that it's only the leftists that come to events to disrupt. I'm not for any disruption. However, let's be real. There are zealots on both sides that do behave poorly, but not all of them need to be ripped out. So
yeah, I mean, the point being that because there are some people in the comment section, she's speaking the truth. Mm-hmm. And
well, somebody would say that Teresa Bornpole was speaking the truth when she took on Senator Phil Hart, who got in trouble for cutting timber that wasn't his, stealing timber. I don't even know if he paid it all back. And he's a tax avoider. I mean, I believe that he lost his seat, possibly related to those. But I mean, she was speaking a truth. So is her truth any less than a truth than Nina's truth?
Right.
Or, I mean, what about Terry Seymour?
Yes.
So we're not going to give anybody a pass if you're behaving poorly. it's going to be called out. Now, I think that something that we're going to be really watching closely, if I haven't said this already, but my sources are telling me that there looks like a warrant was served against Sheriff Robert Norris in regards to the Kootenai Regional Town Hall. This is going to be extremely fascinating if indeed that happened. You guys should be thinking about the implications when a sheriff has a warrant. If this is true, if a warrant is served and either his property or something else was seized by law enforcement, we want to know who took it, why they took it. It looks like things are going to be spicing up pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering
Lots of rumors
how many
flying
other warrants might be served.
Yeah, lots of rumors flying around, and it takes time to vet this out.
Yeah.
Because one thing we can be sure about is Wilson doesn't just start spouting things from the hip. Some of these things take a little longer in coming so that you can present fact on situations, kind of like bypass the rumor mill.
Do we have that phone?
Well, we're going to
call?
try. We're going to try. Caller, are you there? You're on the air with Dan Wilson.
Yeah, are we working tonight?
Yeah, it's working.
Can you hear me?
We
We
Can you hear me? Great. Okay. Yeah, this is Ed Depriest. And, you touched on a couple things. I'm kind of scribbling notes here, but I tell you what, I have a copyright on the term zealots, okay? I've been using that for a long time. They're not far right. They're not extremists. Zealot is a very good term because it is basically uncompromising in their political and religious beliefs, and that's what a lot of this group is. So I've got a couple things for you tonight. Why is it invite only? Well, because it's obvious they don't want any questions asked that are going to make their guys, girls, their endorsed candidates look bad. And a few weeks ago, they didn't want to hear, and they knew it was coming, was why they voted against higher ed last year. And they didn't want that asked. So a couple of years ago, the Grange town hall that they held, again, you submit the questions. And this was the NIC election, not the last one, but what it was 3-4 years ago, when they were all saying that they were going to bring Christian values back to NIC. And so I submit a question that wasn't read that basically says, all right, how do you balance your Christian values with constitutional rights? Because a lot of what's going on here is they're trying to impose their values on this community, even if it's walking the line of violating constitutional rights. Now, there's things that I don't agree with, and you won't find me involved with, but if the Constitution gives people the right to live lifestyles or act how they act, then nobody has the right to harass them, run them out of town, and all these other things. And I have one more thing for you, too. You mentioned outside money. There's a podcaster here who I believe is the Citizens Alliance for Idaho, and he talks free about outside money. But if you look at his Sunshine Report for 2022, that PAC took $271,000 from the Citizens Alliance Political Action Committee in Dublin, Ohio. So if you're against outside money, I know that it seems like this Alliance for Idaho is probably a subsidiary, or of whatever it is in Ohio. That's probably the mother base for them, or whatever you want to call it. But you talk about hypocrisy, and that if you're going to complain about others and outside money, why'd you take $271,000 from Dublin, Ohio? Yeah. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you tonight, and I will continue to watch the show.
Great.
All right.
Thank
Thank you
Ed.
so much for your call.
Yeah, Ed, you and I agree on a lot of what you said. Look, I am a devout follower of Jesus Christ. My faith is more important to me than my citizenship in my country. But I continually tell you folks this over and over and over. The culture that was around during the framing of the Constitution, when our founders said this Constitution is for holy, a moral and righteous people, because that's who typically has enough self-governance to make the ability to not infringe on other people's rights without having a domineering government that tells everybody they can't do something. That has changed. And I think what's happening right now is we have Christians that are struggling of reconciling the fact that their government, when it was formed, was primarily a Judeo-Christian nation. That's what the majority of the founders. Now, there were agnostics and deists and people all over, but they all had a common belief, for the most part, in a supreme being that created all men and gave men those natural rights, life, liberty, and property. Now, if you want to change laws, as we are afforded in each of our states, and I'm going to go back real quick. Madison was dead set against any kind of state-sponsored religion. I'm going to say this, as I said last week. The very first line in the First Amendment is, Congress shall make no laws establishing any religion nor prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So Ed Depriest, as a representative, could show his belief in Jesus Christ in his actions as a representative, but he can't force other people to participate in it. And so, yes, I'm all for the states. We agree, consent, if you will, to live in this state under the state government. And yes, we are a constitutional republic, and we are able to get our representatives that align with our values. And I do agree with Ed. If you are the ones in power, continually to push those things that you believe are righteous or things that are moral or correct or whatever, so long as through those you are also not infringing on other people's rights to not participate. I'm going to say this about this bill that Representative Redmond has been pushing, which would require mandatory reading of the Bible in school. Absolutely has zero place. I think that the Supreme Court would shoot that down immediately. If a student wants to read the Bible, or students together, and they want to do it publicly, you're covered. But for the state to come in and demand that public schools read the Bible is bad principles. It's bad law. It's constitutionally unsound. So yeah, I agree a lot of that, Ed. But I think that the churches, if they were doing their job, would change the culture back to what it might have been once upon a time. And we have sins in all of our backgrounds. Our country is not perfect. We had to right some of our wrongs, and we've done that along the way. But we do need to be getting back a little to more sanity. And there are some things going on nationwide that are insane, and I believe are immoral and incorrect.
This is a call-in program. We will take those calls throughout the show. The number's 208-366-4671. The rules are you call, I answer, you hang on the line, and we will pull you up when we're ready to have you join in the conversation. And then a couple of other etiquette things on your phone or to help us with signal. Make sure you're speaking right into the phone, maybe not using a headset, not on speaker, but just speaking right into the phone, and that you don't have this program playing in the background, creating any echo. Yep. So a couple little technical things there.
You know, Ed also brought up this question about the town halls that are by invitation only. Now, yes. Part of the argument that Brent Reagan and the KCRCC is making regarding that infamous event is that that was a private event because the KCRCC was hosting it. Therefore, it was a private event. I think that it has been debated over and over by folks that are in the know and knowledgeable. And they have said that, look, you got to hold on. I got caught off guard by Mark's comment there. Hold that there. I want to come back and talk about it.
I'll leave it up.
But it wasn't a private event. So they've gotten smart. They've learned their lessons. And so now they're holding this latest town hall this past Saturday at Candlelight Christian Fellowship. And we're going to play a video. I want you guys to hear, and I want to ask the question, should we be holding these town halls in churches? And what do you think about what they're saying in this clip? This is Associate Pastor at Candlelight Bible.
Make it fit on the card so that we can read it without a magnifying glass, please. And raise your card like this, and a volunteer will come and collect it. And so, Steph, I assume that we do have people ready to collect the cards. So just so they can see the card, and they'll be sweeping the room constantly to get your question in the queue. I do want to let you know we likely won't be able to answer all the questions. We will do our best, whether they are in the room or online. Couple more things. This is a private event. Attendance is by invitation. By being here, you've agreed to follow the event guidelines, and you saw them outside, and you saw them posted on our entryway. We need everyone's help to maintain order and decorum. If someone chooses to disrupt the event, that person will be asked to leave. If a disruption occurs, please do not engage with the disruptors. Our team will handle it so the event can continue without interruption. Please and thank you. So we're here to have a great discussion, to hear directly from our legislators and walk away with a better understanding of what's happening in Idaho. Amen? So with that, let's get started. Please help me welcome Senator Phil Hart from Legislative District 2.
So they have learned their lesson, or attempting to change their narrative to follow this event, to follow the narrative that they're spreading from February. What does it mean? Invitation only. Now, a person that just hears that, are they led to believe that if you weren't part of the KCRCC that you were not invited to this? Or are they merely saying that we are going to open this up to the public so long as you agree to our terms and you have to sign an RSVP? I don't know. Does anybody know what that means when they say invitation only? Notice that he emphasized that. He emphasized that if anybody gets out of turn, their security is going to take care of it, but it is a private event.
And that, I mean, and by invitation only is different than RSVP. RSVP, you're still putting the word out to the public, and it's like, look, we want a record of who's coming. I can kind of understand that. But yeah, by invite only leaves a lot out there, because if you didn't get the word, you're not invited. You don't have, does that mean now, and that's the title of tonight's program, does that mean now you don't have access to your elected officials or your state legislators, depending on your political affiliation?
Yeah, indeed. So if you know, drop a comment in, let us know. We want to know. But I'm going to come back and ask this question. So as Republicans, you know you have the majority right here, not only in Kootenai County, but in the state. So does that mean you do not represent Democrats? Does that mean you don't represent independents or any other party affiliation?
Well, if Liberty Without Compromise hosted a town hall, would they come and open the doors to anybody, regardless of political affiliation?
Yeah.
Answer the questions.
I think that is exactly the point. And I'm urging our legislators to correct this behavior. You are becoming the tyrants that you claim that you stand against. Have a backbone. Ask the Democrats. Will they host you guys to come and answer questions? You may not like their questions, but you should be solid enough in your ability to articulate your stance to be able to say why it's constitutional, not only from a state constitution standpoint or a federal constitution, but I think that this is driving a wedge that does not need to take place right here in Kootenai County. You are the winning team, and you don't need to keep rubbing it in other people's faces. You do need to be the leaders that you should be. And I think that we need to start putting pressure on those that think that the legislators are beholden only to the KCRCC. And I'm speaking to every last single one of you legislators, every last one of you. You guys are better than this.
I would like to point you to our website, libertywithoutcompromise.com. We have a new contributing author, which is, things are so slow.
Yeah, no,
Things are so slow. We've got a new article up on the website, contributing author Watchmen Ministry. So be looking for them and what they contribute in the future. This week it is Reflections on Liberty and Madison's version of the First Amendment. A very intriguing short read that you should definitely go check out. We got some other goodies on our website too. I don't know that you want me to talk about that right now, or if you're ready to move on and forward.
Well, we can talk about anything that you want to talk about.
You might be wondering why this like eyesore, this big old yellow box is sitting up here and it says cookie. Cookie. We want to talk to you briefly about one of our affiliates, Midday Squares. It's a functional chocolate bar. Our favorite flavor is cookie dough. they've got chocolate and peanut butter and brownie bites and some other things. We finally got our order. We were waiting with bated breath, but we got our order in the mail today. So these will last us for a while because we got
That's a dumb
several.
package.
It's I know
That's
you
dumb.
want
It
to
looks
rip
like
the sticker off.
Looks like you're
but it's part of the printing. Is that the feedback we're going to
your
give there?
marketing. That sucks.
Well, look, I'm used to getting critiqued. I can critique them. Yeah, the packaging is a little out there, but the bars are delicious. The code is in the comments section here. That's going to give you 15% off when you order your box of Midday Squares, and you just pick your favorite flavor. It's better than diving into the good old chocolate and peanut butter at night or whatever your go-to is, ice cream. This is going to give you a proper portion, and it's going to fuel your workouts and some of the healthier choices you're making, but you're not compromising taste. It isn't weird. It's really yummy. That's what I have to say about that.
Nick likes brownie bites.
He likes the brownie bites.
All right, if you are watching right now and your screen is not extremely sharp due to our broadcast, would you let us know? We are battling satellite internet all the time up here, and so we're always trying to figure out how we can make it better.
We're going to have to go with Starlink.
We want to know, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to Starlink.
There you go.
But then will our satellite get keyed?
Who knows?
All right.
Well, they better not key up on our place. They might be met with
They probably wouldn't make their way out. Yeah.
We have a screenshot that you sent to me today on a statement that Brent Reagan through the KCRCC made about this outside money.
Okay.
That also Ed Depriest was talking about. When you throw that up there, I will read it off.
Are you going to be able to read that?
That's not the one. That's the continual one that is the gremlin tonight.
Oh, that's the gremlin?
I'm going to pull it up on my phone.
Sure,
if
that
I
was
can't.
the one.
No.
Okay. Huh.
That one right there.
I think that's the one I put up there.
No. All right. Gremlins abound. That's the one that I'm seeing right now is from Stephanie Shedd.
Yeah, that's wrong. It's wrong. The correct one is up there.
So let me read.
Do you got it, or do you need me
I'm
to
going to
read
read it.
Okay,
So,
go for it.
It says KCRCC takes a stand against out-of-state cash in Idaho Ballot Initiative elections. More to come. This is just the first step towards lasting ballot initiative reform in Idaho. The Kootenai County Republican Central Committee has overwhelmingly passed a resolution to stop out-of-state big money from funding ballot initiatives that seek to alter Idaho state laws. This move protects our state's integrity by keeping outside influence at bay and ensuring Idahoans control our own future. Next step, urging the Idaho GOP to pass a similar resolution to push our legislators into action on this critical issue. Now, I know that part of the argument that they're making is that they are doing this due to the fact that with Prop 1, which was ranked choice voting, when that came out last year, that they were getting money from all over the country, and I forget the state where predominantly the funding was coming from. And they're saying, hey, with any of our ballot initiatives, which folks remember, ballot initiatives are those things, those laws that the citizens bring up that they want passed that kind of bypasses the state legislature. And so the citizens' initiatives can end up going sideways. That's how in Washington state we ended up with marijuana. I think that there is some wisdom to making certain that we don't get a lot of influence from out of state for all sorts of political activities. They need to be disclosed. But Brent Reagan, KCRCC, if you're going to take this stance with outside money, where do you draw the line? Do you draw the line on your state legislators getting money from outside of the state? How about your local officials? How about a county sheriff who originally hailed from Los Angeles, received over $10,000 in the last election cycle, maximum donations from the cannabis industry, from the king of cannabis, and a few of his other cohorts. So I think over $5,000 or $6,000 in cannabis money. What about big developers? What about money from billionaires from Las Vegas who, while they are contributing, they are also under a judgment from a court for defrauding a bunch of investors, big time investors, over generators promised, solar generators, I believe, that were never materialized. And then when the judgment came against him, close to I think it was like 700 million. My numbers could be off, but it was an extensive amount of money. He then, instead of paying that, money from his own accounts. He started pushing that money to some of his other corporations, and the courts had to come in and spank him again. So my question, Brent, where do you draw the line? Bruce Matari, county commissioner, same thing, got money from outside of the state from cannabis industry. So I will fully disclose that I received funds from all over the United States when I ran, from people that saw our broadcast and liked the message. But where are you going to draw that line? I think it's a lot of bloviating.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's, again, what's good for me is not good for thee. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, Ed touched on that, because it seems that you have media outlets that are pushing conservative agendas, backing bills and that sort of thing. And then you start looking into how those are being funded, because you'll see a host or hosts on a live stream, or influencers who are spending a lot of time on social media to the tune of 100 posts a day, pushing that information, which some would view as propaganda. And you think, okay, what is your job? What is it that you're being paid to do? How's that being funded?
How does a homeschool mom, self-proclaimed homeschool mom, have time during the day to post multiple times per hour? Just a question.
Well,
just a question.
That's what homeschool's all about. Flexibility for mom.
And this is coming from
that's what it's all about.
A kid that was homeschooled from second grade, first generation. That's what
it's all about. And you don't have to pack their lunches either.
One of those big donors to Bob Norris, I do want to remind folks, owns a significant amount of land up in Hayden. So Ed, that is something that probably should be on your radar if it's not already. Some of these guys that are coming in, and I don't know, hopefully they have nothing more intended than just some investment. But yeah, I think that we need to be watching where all the funds are coming from. And I think the Secretary of State Sunshine Laws are outstanding. Now, let's talk about campaign related things again.
Okay.
For those of you who are possibly just joining the Liberty Without Compromise broadcast for the first time, I ran for sheriff of Kootenai County against Republican incumbent Robert Bob Norris and was unsuccessful. As Ed said, I lost by a landslide. So why am I continuing to go and run my mouth when I'm doing what I'm doing right now? Well, Ed, I'm going to answer this publicly. It's because the message still needs to get out there. And the shenanigans, which is the nicest thing I can say about Bob Norris, needs to be exposed. How many of you know that in this county, about a year and a half ago, Kootenai Electric closed down their old offices up in Hayden and moved to a brand new multi-million-dollar facility out in Rathdrum? Well, the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office purchased their old building, and they put a lot of work into renovating this for a new substation. There's controversy as to the requirements by law. State law requires that the county sheriff, his office must be in the seat of the county, which in this case is Coeur d'Alene. We know that he has an office up at the Hayden location. We know that he's spending an awful lot of time at the Hayden location, but this is a known quantity now. We have this substation, I believe records and fingerprinting and the fleet. A lot of stuff is staged up there, no longer down by the fairgrounds. Well, what happens when you have a sheriff that continually shows that he's more aligned with building an empire rather than leaving a legacy? We got a video that we're going to show you of something that Dawna and I recorded this past Sunday when we were out taking a tour of this new facility.
You're going to have to narrate it.
So you see the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office North Campus, Sheriff Robert Bob Norris put there on the sign. I believe that he's the only elected official to have his name associated with his elected position.
We had somebody plug that question into AI. I don't know if it was Grok, but how often does a local county sheriff put their name on the sign? Apparently, the return on that says, for the most part, they do not, unless they are campaigning. Mm-hmm. It's actually quite rare that a local county sheriff will put personalize the sign with their name.
I take exception to it. And I put my own posts out on my various social media platforms this past week. And I said very clearly, I would not put my name on a sign because, once again, it is the office that has the power, not the individual. Not only is it irresponsible and pompous and arrogant to put your name up on government property, which you use, Bob Norris, freely for your own devices continually for your own gain. But when you're gone, whether it's in 2 years, like the rumor has been circulating around for quite a while, when you plan on retiring before your term ends and leaving, we have to pay for that sign. But more importantly, what are you telegraphing, Bob? You know, I took a lot of flack when I was on the campaign trail because I said repeatedly, and this is my belief, and I want to say this to all of you long-serving legislators out there, and you know who you are. Retire. You're too far into those positions. You've been there far too long. Term limit yourself. You are not the savior. There are other people that can come and take your place. You know, I think of Ron Mendive. I like Ron Mendive a ton, but you've been there for a long time. Vito, you've been there for a long time. I'm just picking on those two, and I like both those men. But the issue that I spoke about on the campaign trail was 2 terms and then self-term limit, because eventually you become part of the system. You get tunnel vision. You're no longer that sharp representative of the people. And so this policy that I had back in 24 when I ran is consistent to what I'm saying right now. You don't make the sheriff's office about you. I also said that I was going to give over a third of my salary.
Right.
I was going to cap my $140,000 a year salary to $99,000 and return the remainder that I didn't take for salary back to the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office to help with some of those different not organizations, but divisions that I wanted to start, volunteer services. I think that we are once again forgetting that our elected representatives are you and me. There isn't a damn one of them that is better than any of us. And putting your name up on the side of your car, putting your name up on the side of a building, or putting your name anything other than stationary is irresponsible, and it's a waste. And a sheriff that is already looking at increased budgets, I mean, it's gone up over 35% since he took office in 21. Last year, the budget went from $43 million to $50 million this year. And I read today that on average, they spent about $93 per sheriff's employee to give them kind of bonuses and perks. The rest of the county's kind of going, that's not right. How come we're not getting bonuses? So I think that in a day and age where money's already tight, all of these things, we need to be leading by example, Bob. But of course, the only thing you know how to lead by example of is getting yourself involved in civil lawsuits. You know, those things that you were claiming a inexperienced candidate was going to involve the county in, and we couldn't afford the cost of inexperience. And Bob, you're doing a great job of showing us, blazing that trail on what civil liability looks like.
By now, just enough time's gone by, they're going to try to tell us it never happened. Never happened. Dan was guest on another live stream. I think it was yesterday. So it's Patriot Confederation with hosts Billy and John. And I'm going to show you a few clips of that program. And once you do that, I want you to head on over to our Facebook page where we have a link to the entire show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Patriot Confederation. The message for liberty without compromise is going to be ongoing for a long time.
Decided that, really, we had still too much to cover, too many things to work on, and that it was not time to quit. The sheriff race may be over temporarily for another 4 years, but the message of liberty without compromise was far from being completed. I tell you, brother, we have just begun, and this war, this 5th generation war that we are facing, is coming at us from all fronts. It's coming not only from the Marxist ideology, the neo-Marxist, but also from the right wing itself.
Sheriff Norris put the real Idaho sheriff
Yeah, no, when we came out with our campaign strategy and our marketing strategy before the campaign, of course, we grabbed up that domain, the idahosheriff.com. And obviously, it's a marketing tool. And after the election, we have 20,000 people that are still, good friends of ours that are looking for the leadership that is missing in the county. And they all refer to me still as the Idaho Sheriff. That majorly chapped. Sheriff Robert Norris's hide last year. He tried claiming that I was violating a federal statute and was fraudulent and tried to make a big deal. Most people just blew him off because everybody that has any common sense understands that I'm not falsely claiming an official position, but I am the people's sheriff, especially right up here in Kootenai County, where we are devoid of true leadership. Of course, there's also that other side that sometimes people that call themselves conservatives and have been conservatives their whole life are dummies. They understand maybe part of the platform and what they have been used to all these years, but they again have not read the founders and what they had to say about dangerous liberty.
And that is scary.
This was a hot topic during my campaign because my opponent received 10% of his large donations from out of state. And they happen to come from the cannabis industry. They happen to come from big development. And those are things that you would not expect a county sheriff in a county of 170,000 or 180,000 people to be concerned with, right? Why is anybody from that far away throwing maximum donations towards politicians? We need to be people that say, if one of our representatives are behaving badly or accepting money from something we say is a contradiction, call them out. Who cares if they're your friends? If they're your friends, they'll admit it. And if they don't, then you need to start questioning, who are these people?
Events of recent history indicate that Americans are setting a course for the end of their own great nation.
You can catch the rest of that program over a link to our Facebook page, and the entire show is there. There's lots of insight into how Dan Wilson thinks, what he stands for, and answers people's questions.
Somebody propped me up, remember? And somebody's behind me.
Oh, somebody's
behind me. Well,
me.
it was Leslie Duncan first.
Oh, yeah.
Then it was John Grimm.
Oh, yeah.
Dan Gookin.
Yeah. Mike Bauer was in there somewhere.
Dark Money from Eastern Washington. Where did I come from? And Bruce Matari's
How do you
words.
even know about videos on YouTube when you're not even from here?
Yeah. Bruce Matari literally said that last year.
I was like, what? Does he hear what's coming out
I have
of
a
his
feeling
mouth?
that both Bob and Bruce are going to get a plumbing up real quick. Dan Gookin brings up a good point in the comments. We're going to throw this up here. 42 U.S. Code 1983. You guys can look that up, but in essence, what it means is it's the ability to sue your elected officials for violations, federally protected violations, not against state things. But anyway, you can go read that. Dan, thanks for bringing that up. That is a great point. I'm going to guess they're not going to like the legal bills that are coming their way.
I wouldn't think so.
But of course, we're probably going to pay some of those.
Seems insurmountable
legal
at this
bills.
point.
Yeah. Let's see. We had an earlier comment by Mark Stewart.
Yeah, the distracted.
Let's throw that one up. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. What was it?
Hold on. Something about idols.
Oh, the KCRCC. Yeah, we had quite a lot of comments since then.
Holy smokes.
And while you're looking at that, what you want to do, we're going to find the comment. Dan will pop it up there. Liberty Without Compromise. We've got gear, apparel that you can purchase, whether it's T-shirts, hoodies, hats. We've got the brand new cowboy collection. You can see up in the corner of your screen, that is our new Liberty Without Compromise logo, part of the cowboy collection. So you can get a shirt or hat with that on it.
Further proof that Dan Gookin is behind us. He's my handler.
Yes.
Because he showed up with a Dan Wilson Liberty Without Compromise t-shirt. I believe he was captured on somebody's
Dan
phone.
Gookin, you are just too much. You're
Kootenai,
too much.
At the what is it? The PC meeting. Their monthly meeting.
Yeah, their monthly meeting.
Mark Stewart, some members of the KCRCC would be wise to not worship false idols. Absolutely, 100%. I'm agreeing with you. That goes for all of us. All of us as sinners daily have to make certain that we're not making idols of anything. Now, one of the other things that you brought up was the fact that right after that town hall event, hours after that, I had you and the BC preacher, Quincy Franklin, on our show. We did a special edition, and we asked you guys questions about the event. I wasn't there. Dawna wasn't there. And my understanding is that shortly thereafter, within a few days, that Mark, an elected precinct committeeman, was removed from the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee Government Affairs, what would you call it, board?
Yeah,
I'm getting it wrong.
He would
committee.
Yeah, he can correct us.
So, yeah, a lot of...
Well, and I've heard tale of, won't name names, but people who've been involved in KCRCC sit at a table, talk to the wrong people, have the wrong opinion on something, or a differing opinion of whatever goes on at church,
Yeah.
and they'll remove you from the mailing list.
Yeah.
So they're definitely about shoring things up so that they're eliminating anybody with a contrary line of thought or who starts to question too much or falls out of line too much. And they know what tactics and techniques to take to remove you from their graces.
Mark says, legislative committee on the KCRCC. Thank you. You know what? After a while, I see cross-eyed. There are so many different acronyms and committees, and I frequently, in fact, I think I called a couple representatives last week incorrectly by their last name.
Probably.
So apologize. As a disclaimer, going forward, yeah, I bungle names from time to time.
We say words backwards. We say proactive when we mean reactive, and vice versa. It happens.
I'm surprised. Now, I gave invitations to several people that were running their mouths online, accusing me and making statements. And you know what? What poppycock responses were we getting back as to why they wouldn't come on our show?
Well, we're going to get to that, but one of them was, some people just aren't comfortable in front of large audiences. Mm-hmm. That was a compliment.
Yeah.
And truthfully, most would share that. They would share that feeling. So that's nothing unusual. But I do want to start with some oddities that popped up in social media last week and beginning of this week. We're going to start with a gal named, and now my screen's doing it where it's putting gremlins up on the screen. So I'm seeing something that's
one that keeps
what I
popping
put
up
there
all the time.
So now I'm not
well,
going to be able to read this
go ahead and read this one too, because this is a good one.
Well, I don't think we're the only ones seeing that because our computers are like really not having it today. So I'm going to find this one on my phone if I can. And it
wouldn't be the Liberty Without Compromise show if we didn't have some technical issue each week.
That's kind of like part of our built into the program now.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we've got Deanna Williams. She says there's way too much drama for me. So she's on our Facebook page. And so according to her, on our page, way too much drama. I'm removing myself from this page.
Okay.
So we said, well, Wilson needs to know if you want a going away party. I mean, since she decided to make an announcement, because if it's too much drama and you just don't want to be there, then just make your exit, just go. But there was something there behind that she had to.
I could get a Maracha band.
So she wants to know, what are you, like 5? I will remember that come election time. And then she kind of tacked onto that and said, I'm going to be sure to tell all my friends. So in 2028.
Yeah, I mean,
in 2028,
I'm devastated. I did offer to put her on.
There's my comment.
I did offer to put her on, the text reminder. So in 2028 comes
no
back
thing.
around.
Oh yeah, would you like that as a text reminder so that we can send you a note in 2028? She said no thanks, and I'll make sure to let everyone know.
The thing that's funny about this to me.
So long, fake sheriff. Yeah, that was the rest of it.
So what I find funny is when people will comment and, well, I used to support you, but now I don't.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. You're a liar.
Well,
you didn't support me ever, because the people that did support me understand what the message is. The message of liberty without compromise. Everybody's rights protected as found in the Bill of Rights, life, liberty, and property. And somebody that's willing to draw a line in the sand. But I find that it's it's common that we get those comments more than anything else. And I'm devastated. You don't want to vote for me? Don't vote for me.
Well,
Devastated.
the thing that's common, it is especially that they want to preface it with saying, you know, I had an open mind going into this. I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't strongly support Norris. I'm right here in the middle. I'm listening to the message of both. And then they proceed to give whatever the negative messaging is about you, about Dan Wilson. Yep. So, I mean, it is indeed a tactic. And that's why I wanted to talk about the importance of what is being said and shared on social media, and being very alert to the fact that there are people who are no doubt being paid, whether it's dark money or in however it is they're benefiting from it with promotions or being allowed to sit at tables, whatever the thing is, they are there intentionally to sway your opinion, to spread the information. And so at first blush, it might seem, well, these are conservatives. These are people that I like or that I'm familiar with at church, or they go to the luncheons. And so, of course, I'm going to trust implicitly everything that they're saying. We have had the special privilege of seeing some of these same actors who are there in those forums and on those pages and in those churches and at those luncheons, who also were highly toxic and detrimental when you announced your run for sheriff.
Yeah, right out of the gates.
It wasn't just that, hey, I'm going to promote my candidate and do all the positive PR for Bob Norris or the legislators or the bills that I want passed. It is the counter operations that they're doing. If there's somebody running for office that they say, wait a second, we don't want the competition. We don't want the interference. We don't want the bad press. We got to take this guy out. And those same people who claim to be God-fearing, loving, scripture-quoting people are the ones that were doing very filthy things.
Like Aaron Barnard.
Yes. And promoting filthy lies and aligning with extremely toxic people.
She ran into me at an event early on. And by the way, the reason that we are talking about this isn't so we get sympathy. See, the actions of people need to be called out. There's this kind of thing that happens where an election takes place, you lose, and everybody's expected, to go on your own separate ways. And in a normal environment, you would. But there was so much shenanigans going on frequently by these united fronts from all different levels, and they all work together, that I'm enjoying calling them out. I'm enjoying bringing them to your attention, and I would encourage you to have courage and also expose, because if we don't start curbing this crap, it's never going to get better, and you're going to have what you have right now in Kootenai County. Now, Erin Barnard, we ran into her a couple months after I entered the election, and within the very first week of announcing days, she was, just vile. We have screenshots that we'll share sometime, but for somebody that professes the name of Christ, extremely vile and a gossip. And we ran into her at this live coffee event during the Lincoln Day dinner put on by North Idaho Freedom Fighters, and Erin cussed me out right there in the lobby. Told me what an asshole I was, and
I think
a slime ball.
Her guard might have been down a little bit
because
she had drinking some wine.
Yeah.
But yeah, when confronted with the opportunity to have a civil face-to-face conversation,
I never raised my voice.
You kind of stood there and just were the buffer for, okay, I am now on the receiving end of whatever is going on.
Had never met her in my
mind.
life.
Yeah.
And she unloaded on me. And but this is the folks that are working right around with Brent Reagan. Now, it's funny to see that Erin and Lucky from the Kootenai Spectator.
They love that they're getting called out, by the way. They know we do it. Mike Petum, they chit chat about it in other
Keep
messaging
those numbers
apps,
coming. Keep our
like,
views up.
Look out, you're going to be the fodder
Well,
for Wilson's.
notice that none of them ever have the courage when we're out publicly to come up and say anything.
No, never spoken to Mike Petum, never spoken to Stephanie Fetzer, never spoken to Erin Barnard, aside from her cussing you out. And then, some of the other players. So there's one more. I know we're to the hour here, and I'm not going to get into all of these, and then I'm going to have to do this little number and read it from my phone if I can stay on mic. But there's a number of screenshots from this Kelly Broderick account. And I guess I was ill prepared for this, not being able to read off of the screen. I think maybe, nope.
Well, I think that what we're going to show is the standard comments by an account that was recently formed.
So thank you for buying me a couple seconds there. So this is Kelly Broderick, and we're not going to get into how all of this drills down. Again, you can go back to our Facebook page because we put a collage of screenshots there that show more of the back and forth. I'm going to let Dan respond to this one. Yep. So Kelly Broderick, this is the other important thing because you have to be aware. Many of these people who are some of the same actors with names that you know that attend these meetings, sit at these luncheons, go to these churches, go to the town halls, the known actors who, once they get to the point where they're not having civil dialogue on our page, it serves no purpose. There comes a point where you can be banned or blocked. That's our house. That's our forum at that point.
Exactly.
So Kelly Broderick, for all we can tell, is a burner account on Facebook. It was formed November 2024. So this could be any one of these very
we
familiar
have had
actors.
Somebody tell us who it is.
We're
not going to say that tonight, but we know who it is.
So the Kelly Broderick account says, it's striking how DW portrays this week's events as, quote, Brent attempting to expel NIR PCs, end quote. Could DW sink any lower in order to gain political leverage? For those who know the real story and still back DW, aren't you catching on yet? Can't you see this is a new low? It seems like DW seizes every chance to cast KCRCC in a negative light, possibly egged on by his ally Gookin. And then she goes on to tell what the actual truth is of the circumstances that happened there in that meeting. Again, those screenshots available on our Facebook page, and they're available there for continued comment, because when this post was made on Real News and Events in Kootenai County, what the Kelly Broderick account did was turned off comments. Mm-hmm. So went ahead to plaster that
hit and run
to amplify the message that they wanted to bring. And I say they because we don't even know he or she technically, because again, these are burner accounts. This is part of the tactics that they use. Yeah, we know. When you know, you know. But so what did you see what was wrong with that statement that she made? Was there any truth to it? Was there a foundation of truth and something was taken and twisted a little bit? Well, what was going on there?
She took the conversation last week, which was reported to me, that the last PC meeting, 2 members were, and for lack of a better word, expelled. One was a PC. These are all brand new ones that won under the North Idaho Republican title. One lady was allegedly removed due to the fact that she has not made the past 4 monthly meetings. Part of her defense is that she had a husband that passed away. Then the next person that was expelled ad hoc, I guess, if you will, or instantaneously, was a lady who was sticking up for the woman that was being expelled, or again, whatever action they were taking. And she made some people unhappy. You had, and this is where it gets messed up and why Kelly is a liar. And we gave Kelly the opportunity to correct the record or to come on here and discuss it further. But of course, Kelly won't do it because they're afraid.
Oh, and Kelly's not Kelly.
The reality of it is this. I reported what I heard allegedly took place. And it was turned that I was making accusations as truths and making comments about sitting members and loved ones that had passed away. Did not happen. And we showed in one of those posts, you responded and gave the marker for people to go back on YouTube, find what I had to say. But this is what we're facing all the time. We're facing liars in Kootenai County that are operatives working for the groups that we've been talking about, whose sole purpose is misinformation and outright lies to discredit. You're messing with the wrong person. You're not going to dissuade me. You're not going to dissuade Dawna. We will continue to hit with both gloves, or in my case, most of you, I just have to hit you with one arm because I'll have the other one tied behind my back. So challenge is there. If you think that you're smart enough, come on, let's have a conversation. I'll be polite. I believe in civil discourse, but we're going to continue as long as it's manageable, because at some point we're going to be unable to respond to everything.
Yeah, there's always a couple of highlights.
But Samuel was another one of those commenters. He comes in and they always say the same thing. Well, I just really want to understand, why do you dislike this guy so much? Why do you like Norris?
Brand new question. Why do you dislike him so much?
Yeah. And of course, having the most robust social media presence out there and website. I mean, the information as to what my beats are really available. But then when I respond, the next one, and this is the new, you're a racist. You remember back in the days when all you had to do is shut a conversation down because you say, you're a racist, game over. Well, the new one that they're using is you're a grifter.
Mm-hmm.
Grifter.
Yeah.
So grifter is somebody that claims one thing, and then when it's politically expedient, they kind of morph. They act like a politician.
You're welcome for that definition, that education. That's a grifter.
As best I can tell anyway.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, challenge is still there. You sorry SOBs that think that you're going to come on and say that I have ever changed. I am so solid in my belief because I've lived by a code and a creed my entire life from the time I was a young boy. You want to make claims that all of a sudden I'm going to change my stance and I'm going to contradict myself? Dig hard and deep. Do the entire soundbite. I'll take you on one by one. Now, I will say, I want to be that type of man that if I find something that is truth that I've been believing wrong, that I will be man enough, have enough integrity to admit it. I want to admit when I do or think of something is wrong.
Well, and since you've said that, we've had a supporter who really came from the standpoint of this idea, like Dan Wilson's such an upstanding guy, and I've seen the fault of Norris, I've seen the proof, I'm going to support Dan no matter what. And even with one of our own supporters, I got in an exchange to say, every single leader or elected official should always be held accountable. We are all capable of error. Mm-hmm. We're all capable of making those wrong decisions. So even if they're electing you into office because of what you stand for, and they see that the honesty and transparency and consistency has been there, but a year down the line, there's some kind of situation that needs pushback and needs to be questioned, that is what the people need to do.
Yeah.
No matter who that leader is, no matter who the elected official is, no matter that they go to your church or sit at your luncheons or that they're your friend.
Yeah.
I'm going down with the ship because I'll support you no matter what. That's what a friend does. You do that for your kids. You do it for your spouse. That is not the way that you run a county. It's not the way you run a political party. I mean, and it is why the holes in the ship, there's holes in the ship and I'm just trying to plug it and keep it from sinking. Inside joke. Yeah. All right. We've blown past our hour.
Yeah. Well,
any final words for us before we wrap it up?
I would tell Kelly, if you want to, whoever you really are, you want to talk about the scriptures and you laid it on heavy and thick, about me disparaging these mega churches in the area. I'm not apologizing. You're taking scripture out of context. And here's my advice to you, Kelly, and the rest of you. Read or listen to, rather, our podcast, which is the Power Player Pastors, available wherever you get your podcast. There's about 9 episodes. You're going to hear transcripts and emails from this pastor who is claiming to be one of the leaders in the county, one of the Christian leaders. He leads the charge at all sorts of events. He remains unnamed, but he's mentioned me in his sermons. He mentions the fact that Bob Norris is his good friend, and the reason that he would never make any time to meet me, I'll give you a kind of a little hint, a little teaser for those that have not listened to these podcasts yet. He's a pretty big deal. He's a pastor of a big church. I didn't buy him a steak dinner.
How about I put that up, because that was something that's been sitting in the wings, and I do think that that's important enough. So I'm going to do that here for you.
Right now to talk about this one pastor, because he started this. I'm going to finish it this weekend after the election. He decided to get his jabs in against me again. We're going to play this here in his comments in just a second. So this pastor, and I'm not going to name him, you'll probably figure out who it is, and I'm not going to name him since he didn't technically name me in his sermon, but everybody knew who it was. So here he is in his own words this past Sunday. What was it? The around the 10th or 11th of November 2024, about 5 days after the election. So here he is.
Fact that not everyone is actually telling us the truth. I can't help but think about politics. This recent elective cycle here in our community, I am stunned at the kind of lies that were told and the way people treated each other. One of our local candidates, I'll leave unnamed, I am already being personally threatened by this particular candidate, recorded a phone call with Pastor Tim Remington, and then took that phone call and made it public without informing Pastor Tim that he had been recorded and or that he was going to release the audio message. I suspect it cost him the race, that along with other things. That kind of thing is what a pastor would be vulnerable to. It happened to me.
You can find that episode, I believe it's episode 1 or 2 of the Power Player Pastors, wherever you get your podcast, again, under the Liberty Without Compromise and the Idaho Sheriff. Now, I'm going to say this in conclusion. You want to take scripture to me because of my so-called tearing down of the church, bring it. Because we're going to talk in great detail about the behaviors, the narcissistic type behaviors, the worshiping of these local leaders that have never repented for what they have done and what they've done to many people. I just happen to be the one person that says, I'm not going to let this stand. This is the pastor that I reached out to in the very beginning of my race, sent a simple email. I'm running for sheriff, Republican Party. I'd like to get a chance to introduce myself to you. Tell me how I can meet with you. Radio silence for 4, 5, 6 months. Continually lying to parishioners that knew us in common, saying never received an email, and then admitting that they received the email but lied about the content, because I have the receipts. And the content is that I was vague. He didn't know why we wanted to meet. And then later on, he didn't meet with me. He was offended because I didn't do enough special things for him. He's a pretty big deal, his own words. I didn't take him out for a steak dinner. I didn't wow him. There's a guy that further went on to slander me when he accused me of being a backslidden Catholic that was excommunicated from the church. When he talked about that he was certain that I was going to start a civil war, and yet the very people that he supports are far more emotionally unstable than what he even would care to recognize. So, again, if you're going to run your mouth online, you are going to be challenged. And if you want to go scripture to scripture, I've been a studier of scripture for 45 years, and I'm willing. Bring your Bible. Let's go.
Well, I think that was a good program tonight. I'm glad to be here with you.
I'm always glad to be here with you.
When you're going scripture to scripture, I want to be there to hear that.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us tonight on the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast, where we'll even go toe-to-toe with you on that Bible stuff, political stuff, Bible stuff. Go to our website, libertywithoutcompromise.com. You can watch past episodes and view exclusive reports on these Kootenai County political power players. Again, all on our website, libertywithoutcompromise.com. You can also get your apparel, Liberty Without Compromise apparel. I like it when Mark Stewart signed on today. And I almost saw it. It was in writing, but I could see the shout, Liberty Without Compromise.
Love it.
So we thank you for joining us in our podcast. You can listen and subscribe wherever you get your shows. And we're looking forward to seeing you next week already.
Be strong and of good courage. Don't be afraid to mix it up and to shout the truth. If you want to be a true American, you'll understand and you will adopt the motto, liberty without compromise. Now, go do good, mighty things. We'll see you guys next week.